Hello, everybody. This is Leslie M. Thornton. Thank you for joining me today on the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss podcast. And this is the first episode. Yay, Hannah gets to be the first one where I'm actually interviewing somebody. And I'm just going to kind of try it out because my goal is to really inspire this entire audience in being able to have more people to relate with and just make them feel like they're not alone with some of the food habits and behaviors that they have. I know that it can be a very isolating and kind of shameful feeling and situation that a lot of people can have. I know it was for me. And just feeling like nobody understands, you're kind of hiding, you're kind of putting it all away. And then the emotions grow, right? Which can
Mhm.
actually make the eating cycle grow even more, right? Or the not eating cycle, which might be more of your case today, Hannah. So yeah, just really welcome, Hannah. Thank you so much for being here. And
Yes.
I'd love it if you could just, yeah, maybe introduce yourself because, obviously you're you inspire me a lot in just your way of being, in a lot of ways. And I know that you've had a lot of different accomplishments and successes in your life. So I'd really love if you could introduce yourself for the audience today.
Okay, it is almost 100 degrees here, and I have chills because what you just said is so life-giving. If I had heard something like this, or if I knew some people were having this conversation 6, 10 years ago, I'm really curious how long I would have struggled because I always wondered and looked for and I don't know if I just wasn't searching the right podcast, but this is just so important. So thank you for letting me be a guest and raising these conversations. This is powerful and important work. So a little bit about me. I grew up in small town Wisconsin. Go Badgers. And I
Yeah.
did all of the right things. Okay. I was like class president, dated the football jock, got into a good college, did really well in college, got the cubicle job with retirement. I had a Toyota Corolla. Like I was doing all the right things, right?
Yep.
And was completely empty inside. And I, although I say I did all of the right things because it was so superficial and it was so pleasing to other people, I never took a minute to think in my youth, who I wanted to be or what I wanted to achieve or where I was trying to go. So in college, it started with a breakup. The high school football star and I did not work out. And that was okay. But for the first time, it kind of made me independent. And I did have to start thinking about, like, who am I now? And at the same time, because I didn't have as much to do, we weren't like hanging out, I hit the gym. And it was the first time I really exercised. And I saw results pretty quickly. And I really liked those results. I started with like Zumba because a friend took me and I was like, oh, I could also lift weights and I could also run half marathons and I could spend like 4 hours a day here and feel really great and like the changes on my body. Well, if I'm gonna run half marathons, I have to know everything about half marathons. So I started reading blogs and getting books. Oh, food. Oh my God, if you're not eating the right thing, and it just became this obsession pretty quickly where I was literally spending 4 hours a day in the gym and cutting almonds in half as a snack because you had to have some, but you couldn't have too many. And it just was all consuming for 5, 6 years. And I did a lot of things. I, for a while, thought it wasn't a problem. Then I did think it was a problem. I got some help. I regressed. It was just a mess. And it was always because I didn't have a purpose. I thought chasing the scale or the finish line or the number of calories on my Fitness Pal app, like I thought that was my goal every day or every month. I didn't have anything bigger to work towards. Does that make sense?
100,000%. Yeah, everything that you're saying. And, I'll pause you for just a quick second because, yeah, when I talk to people, they're all very high achievers. They're capable of accomplishing huge things, right? And in every area of their life, not unlike your story, they've had all the success. And on paper, it looks like, why shouldn't I be happy?
Yeah.
Like I have absolutely everything that I want and I'm not happy. And it can cause a lot of breakdowns for people, because it's like, well, what's wrong with me? I can master every other area of my life, but I can't master this one. So I love that you're giving this perspective of not having a purpose. I think that's
Right.
huge. Can you say a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I remember it so distinctly. It was my therapist, Wendy. I had Wednesdays with Wendy all through college and beyond. And I was so frustrated. I remember my exact words, like, nobody gets me. No one will support me. No one in my family runs. No one in my family cares about health. All my friends just party. Like, nobody gets me. And she, as a therapist, she sat back and just, took it. And then she's asked, Hannah, how do you want to be remembered? And I stuttered and I didn't know, because here I was trying to prove to everyone that I was skinny. I was the smallest girl in the room. And when she asked me, how do you want to be remembered? I realized that wasn't the legacy I wanted to live. I didn't want to be remembered as the obsessive runner. And that started me on a journey of exploring, how do I want to be remembered? And I realized through lots of other things like yoga and continued sessions that I wanted to be a trailblazer. I wanted to show people that, yeah, health and wellness is important, but if you spend I realized if I spent all of my energy just being skinny, I was missing out on so many other things that I cared about. Like, I then went to Africa to teach English for a month, and then Nepal for a while. And then I became a yoga teacher. And like, when I gave myself permission to not just be the runner skinny girl, but something more, my energy completely shifted. And my focus wasn't just on cutting almonds, but it was, where can I travel next? Where can I learn next? Who can I help next? Does that make sense?
100%, absolutely. And I had a similar experience where,
Yeah.
my lifelong dream was to be able to travel the world, right? And I mean, these are the crazy thoughts that I don't think people talk about enough, of like, I can't do it because if I do, then I'm going to get fat.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah.
fat is a huge fear, right? So
Yeah.
I would have these different things that would hold me back. And so I love what you're saying. Like, when you broaden what it is that you really want, like, how do you want to be remembered, right? Then it's like, okay, like, am I willing to sacrifice it? Like, is it super important just to be skinny and to look amazing and have the perfect body? Or do I want to really live my life and make this, wild ride and adventure, this one chance that we got, that we know of, right? To be
Yeah.
able to live whatever kind that we want to live. And yeah, it was probably last year I was in India, and growing this business and being able to help a lot of people. I know everything about weight loss and every diet. I can just support people so much, but I kind of had this juncture. Well, first of all, I had this knowing that I wanted to learn and how to love and accept my body for the way that it was for the first time in my life, and kind of let go of that control of like constantly dieting and, like you're saying, cutting almonds, all these weird habits and behaviors to try to make it perfect. To let all of that stuff go. Like, I wanted to love and accept my body. I wanted to find a community of people that could support me in that journey. And I wanted to be able to grow my business. And I just had this awareness that unless I got over my fears of gaining weight or what other people were going to think or say about my body changing, et cetera, I was never going to be able to have that bigger dream. And so I found that support system, not unlike the one that I do for my clients today, to be able to support me in being able to do that. And my life has, since launched. So I'm curious, like, what changed for you after you made that life-changing
Yeah.
decision? What have you created today?
Yeah, definitely. So travel was the impetus. And I remember having a conversation with a nurse, because I was so underweight that I was like, I had to go to the doctor every single week to check things and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to Cambodia. And she was like, tell me more about that. And I was like, I told her I'm like doing this teaching English thing, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, you can't pack any protein bars. She's like, you have to go and eat what they eat. And that was so scary to me, because she knew my pattern, right? Like, okay, I'll like do the calories, but it has to be in my way. She's like, you can't take any protein bars. Like, you have to go and experience that. And that was so life-giving. And I was more present and more curious and more caring than I had been in my adult life when I was in Cambodia. So Cambodia taught, and travel in general just taught me that like I wanted to be massive. I didn't want to stay in small town Wisconsin. I wanted to be able to be anywhere in the world and do anything I wanted and use my money for good. So let's fast forward to, kind of my grown up life, if you will. I did leave small town Wisconsin and started a coaching business in California. I knew I needed to be in a fresh place and give myself kind of a new beginning and a new chance without any protein bars. Same thing, right? And so I started coaching people who had similar issues to me with eating disorder and mental health. And while that felt really purposeful to me to help other people go through basically what I was going through, as a coach and as an entrepreneur, I've learned it's always about just like being one step ahead of the people you work with and kind of bringing them along on the journey. It wasn't a healthy place for me to stay. But in building that business and in working with those women, I learned how to build a business, how to, have the 6-figure lifestyle, the laptop lifestyle. And so I've transitioned over the years from, eating disorder and yoga type of services more into the marketing and the business side of things. And I get to do what I love. And, I'm still kind of quarantined, so I'm not working anywhere in the world that I want to, but I've accomplished a lot of the goals that I had for myself. My catchphrase is dream life is real life. Because for a while I thought the things on Instagram or in my journal were just cute dreams. But what I realized is like that can be real life. It takes work. It takes putting your energy in places other than the gym. Yes, and right. But I'm in a position now that I hope to be a role model to people who have that thing inside of them, that sleeping giant, that bright light, and they need to put it somewhere. They want to make an impact on the world. They want to help other people. And coaching, just like Leslie.
100%. I love that so much, and something that I talk about with my clients a lot. Like, dream life is real life, and we hear about bucket lists, and there's different all things like that. And from just an energy or integrity standpoint, in my experience, if you're not actually getting present to the things that you actually want, whether it's travel, whether it's marriage, whether it's a car, whether it doesn't matter, even whether it's like a, really fit body or accepting and loving your body just the way that it is. We all have different awarenesses around what it is that we want during different parts of our path. And the pain and the suffering and the stress, can come from not acting on those things that make us really happy, like judgment free about whatever that is. And it takes so much courage and bravery to do that. But in my experience, same thing with me, having the nursing career, wanting that perfect body, getting that perfect body, but then moving and transitioning into, it's more than that, it's loving and accepting myself. It's being in service to other people, traveling the world, starting my business online, like all of these different things. If I wasn't, somebody like you, right, that's just like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to have whatever it is that I want every step of the way and be willing to change and recreate and start again. And I would not be able to like, life doesn't work, right? It's like, that's what keeps us stuck. That's what keeps people overeating and stress eating. And like, you know what I mean? So, for all my listeners out there, I think my community at this point really knows that I'm very action oriented. The beginning of my podcast is like, you can do this, like you can make the change, but you have to ask for help. You have to make the change. Right? Because it's really all well and good to just listen to a podcast and feel like really nice and soothed by my voice. But unless you're implementing these actual things, and taking the steps to doing that, you're really not going to make the change that you need to see different kinds of results in your life, starting with the food habits and behavior. So
yeah. And the thing that I've learned is that food is just a lesson. Okay. So I think every person who struggled with food or body image or the gym, whether it's doing too much or too little or anything, that's a sign that you've got something, right? Like that's what I'm talking about, like this thing inside of you. We can't name it. I feel like it's like this sleeping giant inside of me that like needs to get out. And so anyone who's kind of gotten wrapped up or gone down an unhealthy path with food, like you have learned so many valuable lessons, and you get to do that work every single day, because you can't just quit food. You can't just quit health, right? And so the process of learning about yourself, about putting your energy in the right place, that is absolutely why I've been able to be an entrepreneur. That's why I've been able to, like find the man of my dreams and like do all these other things, is because I got to work through this. I'm so grateful for the mess that I was in, because I figured out how to get out of it. And those tools, we can talk about them if it would be helpful, but those tools map on to every other aspect of your life.
100%. No, I totally agree. I often will say, like, food you can look at food as being your greatest teacher, right? And oftentimes, like, just that reframe, because obviously most of us, or most of my listeners, when they're listening to this, are thinking, this is a plague that I have to deal with. This is a forever horrible thing that I have to forever and ever and ever. And, sometimes people will get to me and they're like, I've tried absolutely everything. Like, I feel like a failure, the fact that I have to do something else. And what I say to them is like, listen, consider the fact that you had to do every single thing to get to the place where you're ready for this program now, where we're getting it from the bottom, from that foundational place of what are the emotions, what are the things happening in the background that are causing me to have this, emotional eating or this stress eating. So getting past that stuff and being able to get present to your life and take action again. So I love what you're saying. And yeah, you mentioned the tools. So, do you have a couple tools you can share with the audience?
Absolutely. So this might sound cliche or silly, but you've got to befriend it. The only way out of anything is love, right? You can't run and run and run. I tried literally to run and run and run and avoid and ignore and just try harder tomorrow. That doesn't work. You've got to love it. You've got to love it out of you. So I befriended the voices in my head, if you will. I call them ED, eating disorder. And to be honest, I still hear Ed sometimes, but we now have a relationship that's like, all right, Ed, you're cute. That's enough for today. When I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, why did you have that cake? You didn't need that cake. You were already full. It's like, Ed, it was a wedding. Like, we had fun. Can we move on now? Go to sleep.
Yeah.
And being able to just kind of navigate your self-talk. And for a while it was tricky. Like, is this true? Is this Ed? Like, what am I listening to? And so just kind of tuning into that mental chatter. And if it's something you don't like, call it Ed or Sally or Nancy in the back seat, whatever you need to do to be able to say, that's not my truth.
I absolutely love that. Yes, those voices in your head are not who you are, right? So just like half of the work that with the hypnosis is like detaching from those thoughts, because before you have that separation of Ed, right, labeling Ed and it's not who I am, we completely will identify and say that voice is who I am, which causes all of the emotions and the breakdown. So love that tip. Cool. What else do you have? This is awesome.
Yeah. The other piece that was really powerful for me was yoga, because I was used to being so active and moving my body. That gave me a place to do that, but in a really intentional way. So not everyone, I think it's good for everyone. Yoga's good for everyone, but it's not everyone's thing. And even like meditation isn't everyone's thing. So what I really got from that practice, and I continue to get, is what my body is actually for. So like I said, do I want to be the smallest girl in the room? Like, is that even a good thing? I'm chasing this thing because I have a belief that Ed is right. But actually, like, I don't want to be weak all of the time. I want to be able to rearrange my room like I did yesterday. I want to be able to feel fueled for the things I want to do. And yoga really helped me tap into gratitude, think about all of the functions. Like, this is such a miracle that I can talk with my hands and, like everything that our body allows us to do. So whether it's yoga or journaling or having conversations with someone to really help you understand, like, what is your body for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just agree with everything that you're saying around the body. It is. And I had that same kind of epiphany for myself as well. And I think one of the fears that I really want to address, because I'm sure that people who are listening could really agree with that, is like, people aren't going to be attracted to me or accept me or be able to love me if I gain weight, right? People are going to abandon me, or I won't be able to attract that partner or whatever. And it's like, it's not true, So just like the more that you have a relationship with your body and you get to choose, how much food gives you enough fuel to be able to do the things that you love every day, right? And you're happy, people are attracted to the happiness,
Yeah.
so like getting clear on like, what is happiness to you? What is, full feel like to you? What is, right? It's that customized approach. And then learning that, like, that's the key to life. Once you have that, like, the world is your oyster. Like, people can't get enough of you because you're just so in love with yourself. It's
Totally.
beautiful.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Um, yeah, we could go on and on, but it's really hard to attract someone if you're just like cranky and counting calories and on the treadmill all the time. Like, that's not fun. No one wants, yeah.
Uh, Beautiful.
And then
Yep.
just the last thing I want to touch on is forcing myself to break food rules. So I had so many rules about like what I could and couldn't have. I mean, I even remember sitting at my desk job and writing for like 10 days. I knew exactly what I was going to eat. Like, that's what I was spending my time on, not like researching starving children or reading a book. Like, I'm going to have a vegan burger and then this and then an almond, like so
Mhm.
much energy.
Mhm.
And so I decided I can't have any rules. It's taking up way too much space in my head. It was vegan for a while, then it was no dairy, then it was gluten, like all this made up stuff. And in working with a mentor, I learned that there are no bad foods. Food is
Yeah.
food. It helps, again, fuel the body you want to have. And so forcing myself to like have a burger and survive that and actually feel okay. And then like have cheese and just look at food as what it is. It's energy in, energy out. Even if it's artificial, like enjoy it. It's not, and like just, it was so hard to like eat some of the stuff. I just, like, I remember we were on a road trip when I was working on this with my family. We went to Culver's, which is like a burger spot in the Midwest. And my mom's like, Hannah, what are you going to have? And I was like, a burger. And she's like, and fries. And I was like, ketchup too. Um,
Mhm.
but I survived that. I even sat in a car for 6 hours after that, and I was fine. I didn't gain 100 pounds. I didn't feel terrible. And so giving myself just that permission, like, no food is bad. I'm going to try it. Sure, I still love vegetables, and I would rather have a salad than a burger, but I don't have to. I'm not, it's a choice.
Yes, exactly. There's a halfway challenge that I give my clients in the program that they have of challenge yourself to have a food that you normally would feel guilty or shameful about eating, and then, use the tools that I teach in the program to be able to deal with the emotions that might come up or the fears that come up about eating that. And yeah, it's like you have to take that first initial action to get over the fear, right? And then
Yeah,
realize that you survive after it. World War III doesn't happen,
right. It's
and
just about,
then it's in a whole different world of freedom.
yeah, you got to prove yourself wrong, right? Like, I got to prove that Ed isn't right. That, like, if I have this burger, I'm a bad person. Like, okay, well, let's just see if that's true, right? Make it an experiment. And it could be that you can't tolerate gluten, but now we know that's true. That's true. That's a reality.
Yeah, not just something that you're hearing. And I love also that you're talking about like the no bad foods, right? That's absolutely something, because it's like there's so much morality placed in food. Like, this food is good, this food is bad. When I eat this food, I'm bad fundamentally as a person. When
Oh
I
yeah.
eat salad, I'm good, right? And then all day long, because of the good, bad, right, and wrong things, judgments that we place on food and ourselves, your emotions go up and down and up and down and up and down, and you have no self in that. There's no mastery over it and no freedom at all. So how do we actually pull apart all those voices and take away all of the judgments of good, bad, right, and wrong, so that you can make an empowered choice, and then you get to feel into your body for yourself how that feels. And then, life is yours after that. It's like, now you just have freedom to make whatever choice. And I find that being on this journey myself of taking away the morality with food and the judgments placed on food, that now it's like I'm naturally, like you're saying, choosing, the salad or the whatever, because I know that it makes me feel good. And on days when I'm craving a cheeseburger, I'll have that too, and it's
Yeah.
fine. And there's like a
Yeah.
natural balance, which is where the permanent part of the weight loss comes in, because it's like you achieve this balance because you're just okay to ride the waves of life.
Yeah, and you don't overdo it, right? Because what I would do, and I was like, I would restrict for a couple of days, and then I would be so freaking hungry. It's like I have to eat an entire box of crackers because and then it's just this guilt and shame cycle that doesn't help you respect food. I want to go somewhere though. You're
Yeah.
saying something, and this came up a couple times in my mind around like judgment. So this is not easy, okay? Especially if you're doing this alone, this is challenging. And I don't want to fool anyone listening and say that it's going to be fun all of the time, or that the people around you are going to get it, right? So in my therapist chair, like, people don't get me. Like, I think that was actually true, okay?
Mhm.
And I want to come back to this idea that, like, moving through this work and learning these things, it's really about self-awareness, self-acceptance, and self-love, so that I'm strong enough in my choices around food, but everything else, that the noise outside matters so much less. So I remember being so susceptible to the judgments of other people, telling me like, you look great. And I'm like, they think I'm fat now because they thought I was too skinny before. Or the thing is, I can't control what anyone else thinks or feels or says. And
Yeah.
if you can come to a place where you are strong enough, like we said, in your choices, burger or salad, like, that is only yours to choose, there will always be a critic, okay? Whether it's someone close to you, someone in your head, and we just need to double down on like where we're coming from and who we want to be, how we want to be remembered, and block out the noise as best as we can. And this is true, right? Like in entrepreneurship, there's always going to be a hater. This is true that I do this too, like, I'll see what someone orders and think, why did they do that? Like, we are
Mhm.
all susceptible to other people's thoughts. We have no control over that. So I just want to underscore that, like, if you're willing to like be in this journey for yourself, fully getting into yourself, that's what it's all about. And I just don't want anyone to think that like it's all roses or simple. Like, you have to accept the reality that it's going to be hard and people will have their thoughts, but you have to follow your truth.
Absolutely. I'm really glad that you brought that up. And I think my listeners probably know by now, because I always say, like, this work is hard. It's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard because it's hard.
Yeah.
The stuff that you have to go through and get past and beyond, it's very challenging. And I was just talking to a woman, a podcast listener last week, and she was talking about the judgments of other people. Actually, I think it was this week. And she was just, like, she can't even put on what she wants to wear every day, because she's afraid of what somebody's going to think or say about that. And it was like, okay, so imagine that you didn't care what people thought. She's like,
Right.
oh my God, I would just be able to wear whatever I wanted. It would feel so amazing and free. And it's, you know, to know, like, and if you're in that prison right now, like, obviously Hannah and I totally understand that it's a hard place to be, and it's scary to get past those judgments. But I love what you're saying, because I had a coach once who told me, she was like, well, you're never going to be able to stop what other people are thinking. Like, you can't control that. So you might as well do whatever you want to do and just be happy with your own decisions, and learn how to trust yourself. And that if you're out of alignment with something for you, your body will tell you. If something's not okay with you, your body will tell you. So paying attention to that anxiety or that frustration, or if something keeps happening over and over again, and for most people listening to this podcast, it's that causes you to seek out that podcast, right? So then just taking action on that stuff and just having a conversation to just, even, get those beliefs of, well, what if I can't do it? Or what if I'm not good enough? Or what if it's too hard? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Just have the conversation and then figure it out later,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just appreciating that it's
Yeah.
challenging. It's hard work,
And being
but it's
able to
worth it on the other
choose.
side.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to prove to yourself, whether it's the experiment of I can eat anything, or I'm going to wear this and feel okay, being able to prove that to yourself and live through it builds your self-esteem. And self-esteem is what is the common denominator among every successful person. So think about this as a workout, okay? Like, I'm going to build this rep of like eating what I want, of feeling confident, of ignoring Ed. And what happened for me is that this self-esteem added up, and I had done enough reps that, hey, I'm gonna stand on stage and tell this story. Hey, I'm gonna charge this much for my services because I have this self-esteem, this knowing of my power. Hey, I'm gonna tell my parents that I can't live in your fear anymore. Hey, I'm going to, decide to get married. I'm going to do these big things in my life because I have self-esteem. I'm grounded, and I have the mindset to keep experimenting, to keep pushing limits, not just around food.
100%. Yep. It totally reinforces that muscle of I can, and I'm worthy and I'm deserving and I'm capable and it's possible. Yeah. And it totally ripple effects out into every area of your life. And in my experience, we both have a lot of experience of seeing all these successful people. That's what it takes. They're constantly pushing themselves out and past their comfort zones and doing the hard stuff that most people aren't willing to face. Not that there's anything wrong or bad about that, but it's because it's hard.
Yeah.
But you don't have to do it alone. And that's, today there's just so many resources and opportunities to get that help and to kind of take it on as not there's something wrong or broken with me, but I'm, up for the challenge,
Yeah,
and I'm willing
absolutely.
to do whatever it takes to get out of that place.
Yeah. And the deal is, it can be hard. It's hard to do the work. You're going to keep getting slapped in the face with it though until you do the work, right? It's not like it's it's not like it's
Will
comfy and
never go
cozy.
away. Yep.
No, you just are going to keep getting the same lesson over and over. So you can either stay in that cycle forever and ever, or you can, do the work to get some new tools and move beyond it.
Exactly. It's so true. And it will, do I want to feel guilt and shame? And the other thing is, we might keep brushing that stuff under the rug, but then usually the people like who are listening to this podcast, your way of brushing it under the rug is by numbing out, by eating more food, which is, again, it's just this vicious cycle and it will never change. You might have a diet that makes you feel okay for a little while, like a Band-Aid,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, the diet's going to fizzle out. You're going to have to go back into the real world, and then you're going to be back in the same place. So it's like, it's up to you when you want to do this work. But in my experience, at the end of the day, you can't avoid it. You can't get past it if you want to have that kind of freedom in your life. And if you want to stay on a diet for the rest of your life, that's okay too. But just understand that it might also be costing you being able to live this life where you're able to make a tremendous difference for your families, for your friends, for the world, for your communities, and any other dreams that you might be able to have or have always had for a long time. Hanna, this has been so great. Thank you so much for being here. How can people connect with you?
Yes, thank you. I'm on Instagram, Hanna Hermanson with a little underscore. And then also, if you want to visit my website, I'm dreamlifeisreallife.com. Use the hashtag, live it, say it. I think it's really empowering to connect with other people wherever you are on this journey, and just as a real person. So find me on the interwebs and we can continue this conversation.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure some people will really relate to your story, and I appreciate you sharing it so authentically and just giving those tips. I'm sure it was very valuable for some people, and I'm sure you'll be definitely hearing from some people. So I'll make sure that I put it in the show notes, but Hanna Hermanson, yeah? And it's
Yep.
Hanna without an H.
There's only
H-A-N.
2 H's in the whole thing.
Okay, 2 H's in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is it Hermanson with an E-N or A-N?
O-N. Her
O-N.
and son. They're all pronouns.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll make sure everybody has that. And thank you again so much for being here. And if anybody has not yet received my hypnosis training, you can go to lesliemthornton.com/weight loss training. And again, Hanna, thank you so much. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.